Now for the double O rule. For this rule, generally if you see two O's in the middle or the end of a word, you turn the second repeating O into a hiragana U. It will be a normal sized U, so you don't make it small like with the hiragana tsu. Now, I say that this is a general case because usually when it is written at the beginning of the word, like for the example, oki, you do not follow this rule. We'll go over more about the exceptions in a bit. Also, you will still pronounce the double O as an O sound instead of an U. It may be a bit confusing and there isn't too much of a difference when you pronounce it, but it should be that way. First, let's go over examples of words that follow this double O rule. Here is an example. Imoto. After the M, there are two repeating O's. When you see two repeating O's in a word, you must turn the second one into hiragana U. Everything else is written as is. So let's see how this one converts into hiragana. You start with the I or the hiragana I at the beginning. Then the mo. Now this repeating O will actually be written as an U. Finally, you have to at the end, which will be written as is. And there you have it. Now let's go over the exceptions to the double O rule. There are a few words with double O's in it that do not follow the double O rule. They may have two O's in the beginning of the word or in the middle of the word, but it will just be written as is and not turn into an U. For example, the word oki. This will actually follow the double vowel rule, which I went over previously. The two O's will be written as is. So for oki, it will be written o-ki-i. There are actually a few words that do not follow this rule, and it's just something that you have to memorize. Unfortunately, there are not really any rules that help you find out whether it follows the double O rule or not. Here are a few examples of words that do not follow the double O rule, and they are exceptions. Oki, toi, Osaka, kori. So for these examples, the doubled O, or the two O's that are in these words, should be written as hiragana O and not U. Here are how they all look like in hiragana. Oki, toi, Osaka, kori. Okay, that was a lot to go through. The double O rule is kind of the most confusing rule only because it has so many exceptions. So when it comes to vocabulary words, I'll make sure to tell you if the rule applies to it or if it does not apply to it, so you can just follow that. So once I go over a vocabulary word and I tell you, okay, this specific rule does not use the double O rule, you're going to just have to memorize that it doesn't, so that the next time you see the word, you know that the rule doesn't apply. And if you're ever confused whether a word uses the double O rule or not, for example, if for some reason you need to use a word that I have not gone over before, just send me an email and I'll let you know. Now let's go over the final rule, the combined characters rule. I mentioned this during our last Zoom meeting, and I'm just gonna go over it a bit more today. This one isn't much of a rule, but it's more of explaining about combined characters. When using combined characters that appear in the special hiragana chart, the second hiragana character that is combined must be small or half-sized, like what you did with hiragana tsu in the double consonant rule. Here are some examples of combined characters. Kya, ryo, chu. If you notice, the second characters are all half-sized. Here are comparisons of a normally written version of the combined characters and half-sized. The only hiragana characters that can be combined with others are ya, yu, yo. They will be the second characters that are used, and they will be the ones that must be a half size. By the way, you have to make sure that it is half-sized, otherwise, the words will be pronounced differently. For example, this word, chu. For this word, chu, if you write this word where the U for it is not small and it's actually a normal size, this will then be pronounced chi-yu instead of chu. And that will mess up the way that the words are pronounced and the way that the words look, and it may be not recognizable as what the word should actually be. So make sure that if it's combined, the second character, which would be a ya, yu, or yo, must be half-sized. Okay, now here's an example of a word that uses the combined characters. Ocha. This means tea. You start by converting the first character, o, and then you see cha. This will be a hiragana chi and a small ya combined. So again, make sure that the ya is half-sized. Otherwise, this will be pronounced ochiya instead of ocha. For combined characters, you always have the e sounding character for the first one, and then you have a ya, yu, or yo following it. So what I mean by the e sounding character is that it will be taken from the e row of the hiragana chart. So if you look in the hiragana chart, this row here all has the e pronunciation. I, ki, shi, chi, and so forth. So if you have, for example, the word kya, this will be a hiragana ki and a ya. And of course the ya must be half-sized. Okay, so to review the combined characters rule, the first character you use must come from the I row on the hiragana chart. And the second combined character must be half-sized. And that's it for the combined characters rule. Alright, that was a lot of information. Just a little note, there can be Japanese words that actually use all of these rules in the one word. Now you know how to recognize and use the double consonant rule, double vowel rule, double O rule, and combined characters rule. I know we haven't gone over how to write all of these hiragana characters yet, but at least now you have this as a foundation, so when we move forward with a more variety of words for our vocabulary banks, it'll be easier for you to understand. For our assignment for this week, I will give you a list of Japanese words written in romaji, and you must choose the right way to write each word into hiragana. I will also give you a handout of all the rules that I have mentioned. I highly recommend that you print this out and keep it with you so it's easy for you to refer back to. You should also print out a hiragana chart and the special hiragana chart that I have also attached. I know that we are working with a lot of digital materials this year, so if you can't print it out, at least make sure to download them from Google Classroom and keep them in a little folder on your computer so it's easy to refer to them. This way, you don't have to keep going back to all of my announcements and my assignment posts just to find that one document. Okay, that's it for today. Sayonara!